Sorry, I had to make more space on my phone. So he wants to do the porch, and I'm like, dude, we need to do this the right way. So we even like I rented a skid loader with an auger in order to like drill the holes to make the little pylon foundation things. And like he like kind of was like upset that like I wanted him to do it the right way. And I asked him like, can we measure this right? And I could tell he was like just being a you know what and didn't really want to measure it like properly to where like the little cylinder foundation concrete pylon, whatever you call them, would meet each column, right? So he like half butted the measurements, and I told him multiple times like, "Hey, are you sure these measurements are right?" And then he kind of did like a nod, like a douchebag nod. And then so we pour these foundations, I had to auger it out. I rented a skid loader for this and told him multiple times like I hope this is right. And come to find out, like when we're building the joists for the deck, I guess he miscalculated and they didn't line up with the little cylinders foundation pads. And so I was like infuriated. And like of course he gets mad at me, like that I'm mad at him. Like I'm like, dude, like this isn't some random person's house. This is like my dream home. And then like he acts like it's no big deal, but I'm like, dude, this is like this didn't have to happen. Like we could have just measured this properly, took the time and done it right. And then so like, on the porch you have like it has like four columns, right? Well, like each of the pylons for the foundation where those posts kind of go to are like off centered on these like concrete um pours. And I'm like, my uncle came by and he's like, oh, like kind of like he's a boomer too. He's like, oh, look, like you messed up like the measurement or like what they don't even line up. And I'm like, dude, guess who measured them? Like you think I measured them? I told who you can guess who did it multiple times if it was the right measurement. And then he kind of looked up like, yeah, like, he's been his brother his whole life. So he knew exactly what I was talking about. But that's the other thing with boomers. They assume everything. They're they're buttholes and they're just parasites. And so then like his brother's like, semi kind of annoyed, but it's like he's kind of still kind of annoyed by me. Like he wanted it to be kind of my fault, you know? And I'm not the type that's going to shy away and be like, yeah, sorry. Like, no, I'm not a beta. Like, I'm definitely always been pretty alpha. Um, and I'm not afraid to like speak my mind. And so, um, then with the deck, we're trying to get like these like lag bolts in somewhere. I forget. Like, I think it was going into the log log cabin or something. Needed lag bolts, so I'm putting these lag bolts in, and he wanted me to, I forget what it was. Like we didn't have some of the parts for it or something. He just wanted me to put them in without like having the whole like parts for it to like be completed. And I'm like, dude, that doesn't make sense. Let's just wait for to have all the parts and then get the job done. Like, and he was like so like butthurt over it. I'm like, dude, like why are we pushing to do something that we don't even have all the tools or parts for? Oh, it was we didn't have like the right like drill um socket for it. He wanted me to like hand crank these nuts on these long lag bolts by hand in like a hard to reach area that would take like hours. I'm like, dude, let's just do this tomorrow. I'll get a socket and we'll zip it on. Take like 2 seconds. But no, he wanted it. He wanted to get it done. Like, and that's the thing I can't stand about boomers. It's like they're just the kings of busy work. They love to just do stuff. Like, if you're not just working, you're lazy. No, like sometimes you don't have work to do. And if you're just doing work, like you can cause an injury. I mean, you could be doing other things at the time that you can complete. They're just so stupid. And um that's just one instance, all right? And then another instance is we were doing the floor. So my dad's the type who just like he doesn't listen. He's get it done as quick as possible. Doesn't matter about the quality. Just get it done. Check it off. On to the next thing. And I had to sit down with him multiple times. Be like, dude, remember, this is your son's dream home. Please, anything you do, think before you do it. Just take your time. If you have any questions, please tell me because I'm a perfectionist and I will sit there and look at these imperfections the rest of my life and just get so mad at you. And that's what your legacy will leave to me. So then we have this flooring. It was the main flooring, right? And we made a beam to go in the basement, right? Well, kind of needed a second one because another part of the floor had like sag in it. He's like, "Oh, it's fine." And so we did an open concept, and like the part that was, where all the load was kind of going on, he's like, "Oh, it's not load bearing," but like you can feel when something's load bearing, you know? And even if it's not technically fully load bearing, doesn't mean you just don't do anything, if it's got some decent load on it, but not like completely load bearing. So I told him, I was like, it's the stairs and it kind of holds up the second floor and then that subsequently holds up the roof, kind of goes straight down into the staircase and then goes against the first floor. And so like that's where it's kind of like sagging, right? And I'm like, we should put a beam right there underneath, to kind of support that. And that'll, because you're running up and down these steps, it's going to be kind of forcing this load into that point of the floor, which it has, it's sagging really bad now. And so these are shortcuts. These are all things that could have just been fixed. We could have just taken one day, and it's not even that expensive, to do a beam like that, under the floor. Literally, if you make your own beam, it literally less than $100. If you do it yourself, it's not that hard. It just takes time, and we had time. So he says, "Oh, it's all right." And then also the other thing is, there was something like the original staircase, we had to remove, and we were supposed to like kind of cover it up. Well, he didn't even really cover it up. He just sent, the regular floor across that area, and even my uncle was like, "Oh, like, what'd you do to this area? Like, did you like, And I could tell they were like whispering, like trying not to let me hear. That's another thing with boomers. They're always so shady, always trying to like, you know, get over on people, and just sweep things under the rug. It's so sickening. And so I'm thinking, I hear it a little bit. I'm like, what's going on? Like, is there something there like I should know about? Like, so later down the road, like, I don't think they really like where that staircase was. I don't think they really like covered it up properly and sealed it. So I've had tons of mice, black widows constantly coming through that area. They're always on the steps. Like I've had like 3 or 4 black widows, literally black widows, on my steps in that same area where that staircase used to be. And then that's where the mice come in. So, I told him, he's like, "Oh no, just a coincidence kind of thing." Like, no, dude. Like, you know exactly what you did, and it pisses me off so much, all right? And of course, like, I should be happy for this. I should be grateful that I got this, that I got something, all right? That he's helping me. My dad is helping me. Like, I should be grateful for that. It doesn't matter about the outcome or my investment at all. So that's one issue. Still haven't resolved it. I have to go through it, reseal it completely, tear everything, tear the carpet up. It's just a mess. Didn't need to happen. So then there's another issue in the back of the with the piping. So he had one of his friends do the plumbing, right? Whatever. But ever since we were done with the plumbing, there was issues with the flushing. And I told him, I was like, dude, you need to call your boy back and tell him he needs to come check this out. Like, this isn't normal. And you know what my dad thought? He was like, well, he was thinking with my mom, he was thinking I wasn't watching my kids and they probably put something down the toilet when I wasn't watching. Like, even with that, how am I going to be maintaining or watching my, kids putting stuff in the toilet? That's just something you can't control a lot of times. I'm not in there in the bathroom 100% of the time. But that was their thought, that's why the toilet wasn't working right. So like I went through like 10 times where the toilet where it goes out to the septic is right where the washer is. So what was happening was I knew that there was something clogged in the main pipe going out, because even if I plunged it, it wouldn't completely unclog it. I could tell just by common sense that it was in the main pipe. And so when I would do my washer, right, the washer would, of course, drain the water out, and it would get stuck wherever that piece of something was clogged. And then it would overflow the toilet, kind of like a movie where it would shoot out 10, 5 feet in the air and just douse the entire laundry room. Brand new, right? And I'm sitting there. This would be randomly after work. I'd get home, throw in a load of laundry. And then next thing you know, I hear some water on the ground and some, spraying action. And I go back there and it's like a horror scene. Like literally the worst case scenario, shit flying up, in the air. It was leaking into my washing machine because I guess it's so close to like the toilet and the system. So it would be backed up. I'd have poop in my newly washed clothes all over the ground, maggots everywhere. Like I'd be cleaning this stuff up, and like I called him multiple times. This happened like 5 times, and it like destroyed like the flooring. Like it now it's like when you walk on it, it kind of has like a bow in it and stuff. Like again, all this stuff was completely avoidable. All right, if he would have just done things the right way and listened. These people, they don't listen. These boomers, they don't listen to anything. They think they know everything. And so finally, I get a clog. I actually rent a snake myself for like $80 at Home Depot. I rent it and I pull out, it was like a big chunk of PVC, right? And I was like, see, it's not some toy, And so that helped for a little bit, but then it kept doing it, And then I was like, finally, dude, I'm not cleaning this up again. I'm leaving it here. Um, I don't care what happens to this place. Like, you obviously don't care. Um, but you really need to call somebody and have this looked at. I'm done, wiping up crap and it destroying my new dream home. Granted, at this time, I'll get into that, but so finally they get somebody out there, right? They look at everything and they find the same thing. It's a clog in the main pipe, and they said there's no way that it could have been inserted through any pipe to get it there. So it couldn't have been from my kids. They said it had to have been from the original construction, that somebody left something in the pipe. And they also mentioned that it most likely, which is weird, that it was almost intentionally done the way and where it was, that it was like kind of hard to believe that it was dropped in there. It had to have most likely been placed in there almost intentionally. So this is, my dad's friend, right? But, this is how he does. So I'm sure, like, I don't know, like, he probably does people, you know, how he does me, to other people. So, maybe he's like, man, screw this guy. But regardless, like, after all that, he had the nerve to say, yeah, that costs $1,000, I'll take a check, and I'm like, take a check? I was like, dude, I rented my own snake. I told you a million times, like, this should have been done for free by your boy who did this work, like, don't even guilt trip me and make me think that it's my fault. So I was like really pissed about that. And then, so I was on like the original deed of the land with my parents. They're worried about my kid's mom. Um, that's the story. Or worried about my kid's mom getting, custody of the house somehow or whatever. So, got that fixed. And so let's talk about the finances. So at some point, like, I was on the deed of the house and the land. And then when we went to after we finished all the work on the house and got the FHA or whatever, they wanted to cut me out somehow. Like, they were like, oh, like, we're just gonna like sign here. Like, we have to redo this. Well, they didn't want to put me in the loan, to like kind of have ownership of this place, right? And I thought it was a little bit suspect, but you don't think your family would do you that dirty, right? And I should have known at the time and not signed the papers. But anyways, I did. And so I pretty much signed it away to my mom and dad, right? My mom had no help in this. She didn't even want to do any of this. She's a whole nother story in itself. And then so we finish it all, and then everything's all right. I'm paying like, I'm a single dad, and I told my dad at the time, I was like, this cost of living is too much. I can't afford this. Like, and he didn't listen. Like, I was like, like, I could, we could do without a lot of this stuff, like, like the drywall and stuff, like, but you have to turn it in, you have to be able to get the loan, so you have to make it livable and stuff. So I understand that. But anyway, so we went to do a garage, right? So the deal was we do the garage, and I was gonna give them like, $5,000, to help with this garage, and then like whatever, put the rest on the loan or whatever. So the deal is that he gets half of the garage pretty much. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Seems like a bad deal, but, and granted, like, he's a really messy guy. Like, he like doesn't have organization, is a kind of a hoarder, like holds on to the stupidest stuff. I got a skid loader, right? And when we finished this garage, he wanted me to keep the skid loader outside, right? and then keep things like shovels and rakes and crap in the garage. Like, make that make sense. No, you put your most valuable stuff in the garage. All right. I don't care about shovels and pickaxes. They can sit outside for their life and rot, and I'll go buy another one for $20. Okay. Like, he was so butthurt that I had this skid loader, which I need to maintain, you know, the driveway, um, down trees, making, redoing the landscape, a lot of stuff that isn't, maintained. And anyway, so we do this garage, right? Well, I told him a bunch of times, I'm like, hey, like, these garage doors don't look right. Like, he wanted to make them 7 by 8, 7 width by 8 height. And I'm like, dude, like, I want this to be like a garage, like, where I can work on stuff. Like, I'm into like heavy machinery. I'm a mechanic. I'm doing all this stuff. I've got to be able to fit a truck in there, all this stuff. And it's like he like purposely like wants to be difficult, and when they're making, the garage, I'm like, dude, this is like really tight. And he's like, oh no, I do this for a living. That's the standard size, And even when the guy came to measure, he's like, are you sure you want 7 by 8? And I'm like, and I'm trusting my dad. He's like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure, you know? And this is what you get for trusting a boomer. Don't ever trust a boomer. All right. So we get it all done, get the garage doors in. I can't even fit my truck in the garage. Like, I'm so pissed. I call my dad. I'm like, dude, I can't even fit my truck in the garage. And of course, what does a boomer do? Oh, well, kind of like hinting at like you should get a different vehicle. You shouldn't have, like, dude, I live in the woods in the like in a cabin. I want to build a farm. Like, you need a truck, dude. And it's just completely out of touch. Doesn't really care. And I'm like, dude, like, I can't even like, and he like had his car, like his muscle car, he wanted to like put in there, hoard in there. He couldn't even fit his muscle car in there. He like damaged the sides of the walls and his mirrors on his muscle car because he had to make it work and prove it works, right? And I'm like, dude, how would I be able to sell this place in the future? That's always going to be a black eye. It's going to be, oh yeah, it's a garage, but you can't fit cars in it, right? So technically it's a shed, right? You got this big old shed. It's like pretty much a 3-car garage that has 7-foot width garage doors that you can't fit a standard vehicle in there. That's going to be a huge price cut. And again, I told this guy multiple times, like, I don't think these measurements are right. And he just demonically refused to even look into it. Like, what is wrong with these people? So when we have these garage doors, they're like $5,000 a piece, $4,000 at least. And I'm like, dude, I'm not paying you the money I was gonna give you. Like, I can't even like fit my truck in there to do work on it. And then he like guilt tripped me. He was like kind of mad I wouldn't like pay like, and first of all, I was like, dude, why don't we just put this money, like, put the garage onto the house? It'd be much cheaper. You wouldn't even notice the payments much different? But it's like boomers just want to suck you dry. They want to suck you dry of every penny that you have. And it's almost like a game to them. They got like 4 houses themselves. They're stretched out. They got like 10 cars, but they want to like stretch you dry and take your money, and they feel entitled to your income and your hard work, and they want you to have their ideas. And it's like, no. Like, we live in a different world. Like, it is not as easy to live in this life. Everything's more expensive. materials more expensive, everything's gas, everything's more expensive. So you have to be more mindful of how you're spending your money. And you got to be very like a perfectionist. So, um, yeah, so it was very frustrating. We ended up, I was like, dude, that's like 10 grand right there for the garage doors that you messed up. We're gonna have to buy new garage doors. That's gonna be another at least 8 grand to get new garage doors. And so he ended up getting one more garage door, but they wouldn't take back the other garage door. Why? Because who's gonna want a garage door that's 7 feet wide? All right. And that's just a little bit of it, right? Now it's at the point where, they're refusing to put the cabin into my name, even though I've been paying at least 80% of all the costs of the cabin. And they're refusing to allow me to um have it in my name. They're like, "Oh, well, once you can afford it yourself fully, then we'll put it in your name." And then he like constantly like I've like literally wrote him off like where I don't even like speak to him, and then like I'll kind of like he'll guilt trip me into like making amends to him and making me feel like I should be the one to like accept him. And then he'll be like, dude, like listen, it's your cabin, it's yours, and blah blah blah, like you don't have to worry. Like, dude, what are you talking about, dude? Why wouldn't I worry? Like, I don't own this cabin. I'm living here under the impression, under a handshake, that this is mine. All right. And I'm paying 80% of this stuff. And I don't even know if it's going to be amount to anything. So, also, so a lot of the money that I put into this cabin, I just paid them in cash, because family over everything, family's always going to be there. And so later down the road, they underestimated how much money I put into the cabin. And they're like, "Oh, like what'd you put in, like 10 grand, blah blah, we put in all this money." And I'm like, "That's all the money I had." All right, you guys, yes, helped front me money to buy this place, but now once we made the loan, you guys got all your money back. I never got any of my money back that I've invested into this place. So I've actually put more into this place than you guys have. So, and I've been paying at least 80% of everything, I think they've been paying like, yeah, like 20%. I made them pay the septic bill because a septic temporary tank is $900 to empty whenever it fills up, which I don't use it that much. It's only me and then my kids part time, and I'm very conservative with it. And I have to get it emptied at least every 3 months, sometimes 2 months. So that's $900. That's like $500 a month, right? And I'm like, dude, I didn't ask for that. Like, you guys opted for this temporary septic. You all thought this was important or not important. So you guys can pay for that bill. That was one of my like no compromise things, was having an actual real septic. So yeah, so then you know I'm stuck here. They like sold their like single family house in a white picket fence neighborhood for like a lot of money. I think they probably sold it for $700,000 or something, and they bought it for like 200. Right? Every boomer did this, and so they made like, let's say, $400,000 profit or whatever. Well, they buy some like stupid townhouse in the middle of the ghetto in the city that we live in, where I went to school near, and I told them repeatedly, do not buy in that area. That is a rough area. Do not buy there. Um, It's almost like one of those like Baltimore City, like row homes, revitalized communities. You got to be a complete dummy to buy one of those places. Yeah, they'll even give you money to buy it. They'll give you all these incentives, but you'll never be able to sell that place. I know people that have gone in those places, they can't even get an Amazon package because everything is stolen. There's a street sweeper comes by every single day like it's their job, and they pick up every single package. And like it's like they like get mad about it. It's like, dude, you moved there. You know, everybody told you that had some sense that that was going to be an outcome, and also with your cars broken in. So anyways, I'm mad because I'm like, dude, you made this really bad investment. I'm so passionate about this and telling you not to buy this stupid townhouse in the middle of the ghetto because you guys just have a pocket full of money and you're just spending it stupidly. And it's going to affect my investment in this cabin that really has a lot of value. And when you guys realize you can't sell your townhouse for even what you paid for it, you're going to lose at least $200,000 of that hard-earned money. Not really hard-earned, it's boomer earned. And that's going to affect me because your greedy selves are going to want to make that back. And what are you going to do? You're going to come after my dream home, and I'm, mid 30s, and I'm not going to have another opportunity to invest like this again. All right. And I don't want to compensate for somebody else's failures, especially not listening to people that are telling them, don't do that. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. So I was talking to them. I was like, yeah, they're like denying all my, advice because I'm just a millennial, right? But I got straight A's in math in college, right? A lot of the math classes I got 100% in. 100% in the whole class. One of them I got over 100% because I did the bonus um, at the end. All right. So they so I was talking to my mom about they spent about 550,000. Now anything a boomer says, you got to add um whatever, like the worst case scenario, you got to like add more to that side. So if they paid 550 and they're admitting to that, they probably paid 650, okay? But anyways, we'll say 550. And they said, "Oh yeah, we already got equity." Meanwhile, this community of townhouses, not a big one, took about 5 years to build, right? During the booming building stage, right? So that's a red flag. Nobody wants to buy in that place. Everybody knows better. And so I was like, well, you guys, if you guys sell this place, like, what kind of equity do you have in this? And they're like, well, I mean, we at least got at least 50,000 right now, right off the bat. I'm like, 50,000? Who's gonna pay 550 for this townhouse? And even right now, after you bought it, nobody, right? And my mom wants to lie. She's like, oh, well, we got it appraised and it's worth um five 550 or something. And they actually said they paid 500. Well, I was like, well, taxes on that 500 was about 550, right? And she agreed. So they pretty much agreed they don't have any equity in it, right? Now the economy is getting bad, so you can take off a couple $100,000 off of that. So now I'm at the point where, I'm really like, frustrated with my family. I've even been thinking about suing them, because of this. Um, and this isn't how family's supposed to be. All right. It's supposed to be, I couldn't imagine doing this to my son, like egging him on, getting his hopes up, his dream home, helping him build it. First of all, I'd like build it how he would want it. That's always a red flag. Don't, if somebody's like trying to build something their way, it's probably not for you. Okay. Um, and I just couldn't imagine doing this to my child. And and then not putting it in their name, especially when they're old enough, they have a successful job, they've proven they're, a good person. Um, because to a man, like a man wants their kingdom, they want their peace, they want, you know, their place in society. And even like I told him, I was like, why can't you put it in my name and then still like kind of help me out month after month? Like, why is it any difference? It would just make me feel better if I have it in my name. It would make me feel more obligated to take care of this stuff, because I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to spend any money on this place because I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. You know, they could turn around and I want to sell it. I've been living in it for 5 years, and they can turn around and be like, well, we'll give you like maybe 40% of the profit, or lie to me about what the profit is, which is what boomers do. And um, so I spent 5 years, 6 years of my life, with my biggest investment, and I'm only going to get half of the profit for my investment. It's just, it infuriates me so much. I just cannot believe it. And they just want to play victim. They just want to play like, oh, like it's yours. No, it's not. Okay. Just because somebody says, oh, yeah, this is yours, it doesn't mean it's yours. All right. If they have the receipt in their pocket and they're just saying behind closed doors that what it said is yours, it doesn't mean crap. Okay. Unless it's written on paper. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me because they wouldn't do that themselves. They want a receipt. They wanted to even, I remember when I was going through my custody battle, they wanted, I needed like $1,000 to like finish out a part of the lawyer. And they wanted to write like a contract. They wanted to get a lawyer involved just to give me $1,000, even though I spent over $15,000, before that. And it's just insane. It's sickening. I'll talk about this story more if you guys want me to share more details. I'll probably do some more videos about it. And I'm just trying to help millennials and people in similar situations as me on what to do in these situations. And just remember, just because it's your family doesn't mean you're close, and doesn't mean they won't do you wrong. And you always, always, always need to get a lawyer involved when it comes to big money, and you need to keep receipts. And if it's not on paper, you don't own it. And make sure your name is on ownership. All right. There's scammers out there, whether it be your family, whether it be friends, anybody, wife, girlfriend. This world is full of just trash and corrupt people. So that's my little rant. Stay tuned for more videos. I will have some more coming out. Until then, God bless. Like, comment, subscribe.